I want you to imagine something for a moment, something so ordinary, yet so deeply personal that it could change everything you thought you knew about someone you love. Picture this. You've just found the perfect gift for the person who means the world to you. Something beautiful, thoughtful, and meaningful, like a necklace that you thought would light up her face, make her smile, and maybe even deepen the bond you share. Now, imagine handing it over, expecting a happy moment, but instead, she screams. Not a gasp of surprise, not a squeal of joy, but a raw, heart-stopping scream that leaves you frozen in disbelief. That moment right there is exactly what happened to me. I want you to stay with me because I'm about to take you on a journey that will unravel everything behind that scream, everything you thought you understood about love, trust, and secrets hiding just beneath the surface. This story isn't just about a necklace. It's about the shock of discovering that sometimes the people closest to us carry shadows we never see coming. And as I share this with you, I want you to think about your own life. How well do you really know the people you call family or partner? How many little moments are hiding stories you've never been told? I'm not here just to tell you a story. I want you to feel every moment, to question with me, to experience the mix of hope, confusion, and fear that flooded through me that day. Because the answer to what happened when she saw that necklace is more than just a simple reaction. It's the key to a mystery that completely upended my world. I remember the day clearly. It started out like any other ordinary day, but I had planned something special, something that would show her how much she mattered to me. I'd spent days searching, researching, and finally found this necklace online. It wasn't just any piece of jewelry. It was something unique, delicate, and filled with symbolism that I thought she would love. When it arrived, I wrapped it carefully, imagining her face lighting up as she opened the box. But when the moment came, the reaction was anything but what I expected. The scream. It echoed through the room like a sudden crack in a calm day, and in that instant, I realized there was a story here far bigger than just a gift gone wrong. Now, I'm sure some of you watching right now have experienced moments when things just didn't go as planned with someone you care about, moments where you were left wondering, why did that happen? What don't I know? That's exactly what I'm going to explore with you. I want you to stick around because by the end of this video, you'll understand not just what the scream meant, but why it changed everything, and why sometimes the people we think we know best can surprise us in the most unexpected ways. I'll walk you through every detail, the lead up to that moment, the aftermath, the doubts, the secrets, and finally the truth that came to light. It's going to be intense, emotional, and real. Before I go any further, I want to introduce you to the main characters of this story, because this isn't just about me. It's about her too. She's someone I met years ago, someone I trusted with my whole heart. She has a laugh that can brighten the darkest days and a smile that makes you believe in better things. But beneath that smile was something I never saw until it was too late. And as you hear about the necklace, the scream, and what came after, you'll start to see how complicated love and trust really are. It's a story about connection, pain, and the fragile line between what we want to believe and what's really true. As we move through this story, you'll notice a few key themes: trust shattered, the weight of secrets, the power of memories, and the unexpected ways that small moments can reveal the biggest truths. I wanted to keep those in mind because they will become important as the mystery unfolds. This isn't just a relationship drama, it's a psychological puzzle. What caused her scream? Was it fear, shock, guilt, or something else entirely? And what does that scream say about the life we thought we shared? You'll see how every detail matters, from the necklace's design to the timing of her reaction. It all connects to something deeper. I also want to be clear, there's no villain here. This story isn't about blame. It's about human beings trying to make sense of their own lives and the choices they've made. And just like you, I was trying to hold on to the person I loved while trying to understand what I was suddenly being shown. It's messy, emotional, and real, and I promise you, it's a story that anyone who's ever loved or lost or felt betrayed will connect with on some level. You might even see parts of your own story in mine. So here's what I want you to do next. Lean in, watch closely, and listen carefully. Because this is the kind of story that grows stronger the more you pay attention to the details. You're going to hear things that will make you question what you thought was true, and that's okay. It's part of the journey. I want you to be the detective with me, to think about what the necklace could mean, why it caused such a reaction, and what secrets might be hidden behind that scream. By the time we get to the end, you'll not only know what happened, but you'll have felt the emotional weight of it all. And here's the master move. If you're someone who loves unraveling mysteries, who's fascinated by emotional stories that touch the heart and challenge the mind, then you're in the right place. This video is designed to keep you hooked, to pull you deeper, and to make you want to come back for more. The story doesn't stop here. There are twists ahead, revelations that will shock you, and moments that will break your heart and maybe even help heal it too. So don't skip ahead or get distracted. Stay right here, because the next part is where everything starts to make sense. Now, before we dive into what happened next, I want you to imagine one more thing. What if a simple gift could unlock a secret so big that it changes your entire life? What if the thing you thought was a symbol of love turns out to be a doorway to a truth you never wanted to face? That's what I'm about to share with you. And trust me, once you hear it, you won't be able to stop thinking about it. This story will linger with you long after the video ends. The necklace itself was supposed to be just a simple symbol, a quiet testament to a moment of happiness we'd shared. But as I now look back, I realize that moment was just a thin veneer over a much more complicated reality, a reality that had been quietly building beneath the surface for months before that fateful day. In the weeks leading up to the necklace, things hadn't been quite right. Little things that I should have noticed, little cracks in what I thought was a solid foundation. Maybe it was the way she started to distance herself ever so slightly, the vague excuses when I asked about her day, or the late-night phone calls she'd quickly end. None of it was dramatic, at least not at first. Just small, almost imperceptible shifts that I dismissed because I wanted to believe everything was fine. But now, those small shifts feel like clues, like warning signs I didn't pay attention to, and I wonder if that scream was her own way of trying to tell me something I wasn't ready to hear. Before I gave her the necklace, our relationship had been a mix of moments filled with love and laughter and others filled with tension and unspoken words. I had been so wrapped up in my own world, work deadlines, bills, and the everyday stress, that I didn't see the signs right in front of me. I was busy being a provider, a partner, and maybe, in some ways, a bit distracted. She had started spending more time away from home, which I chalked up to work or her hobbies. But looking back, those hours were often filled with things she didn't want to share. I thought it was just a phase, something temporary, but now I'm not so sure. The people she interacted with changed too. There were friends I didn't know about, phone numbers she'd quickly hide when I walked in. It all felt innocent enough, but now, every hidden text, every unexplained disappearance feels like a piece of a puzzle I never wanted to see. Was she hiding something bigger? Someone else? What makes this story more complicated, and what I know will keep you watching, is the fact that even the people closest to us can have secrets so carefully buried that they seem invisible until something happens to crack the surface. There's her best friend, for example, someone I always thought was supportive and harmless. But I learned later that they had their own secrets, maybe motives that weren't clear at the time. Then there's the coworker she mentioned often but never let me meet, a figure in the background, someone who might hold answers or maybe just more questions. I won't lie to you. Every time I thought I was getting closer to the truth, new doubts crept in. Was this just a misunderstanding? Was my imagination running wild because of stress and fear? Or was there something darker lurking beneath the surface of what I thought was our perfect life? The more I tried to piece things together, the more tangled the story became. There were moments when she seemed like her usual self, warm, caring, even vulnerable. Other times, she was distant, almost like a stranger living in the same house. I began to notice subtle hints in the way she avoided certain topics or how she reacted whenever I brought up the necklace after that day. The necklace itself wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was tied to a memory, a person, maybe even a past she was desperate to keep buried. Every time I tried to ask her about it, she would change the subject, or worse, her eyes would flash with something I couldn't read, a mixture of fear, anger, or guilt. It was as if the necklace was a key that could unlock a door I wasn't meant to open. And yet, I couldn't walk away from it. I had to find out why that scream happened, why she reacted the way she did. This mystery isn't just about a single moment, it's about everything that led up to it and everything that followed. It's about the silence that came after her scream, the nights I spent lying awake trying to make sense of what I'd seen, and the conversations that felt like walking on eggshells. I started looking closer at the people around us, the places she went, and the secrets she kept. There were so many possible explanations that the truth seemed buried under layers of misdirection. I found myself questioning who to trust, what to believe, and whether I could ever go back to the way things were. Was the necklace a symbol of love or a trigger for a hidden past? Were the strange phone calls connected to her sudden panic? And how far was she willing to go to protect what she wanted to hide? Every time I tried to share my concerns with friends or family, their reactions only added more complexity. Some told me to be patient, to trust her, to give her space. Others suggested that maybe I was ignoring obvious signs, blinded by love. I felt torn between hope and suspicion, love and fear, truth and denial. The emotional roller coaster was exhausting, but I knew I had to keep going. Because if there was one thing I learned, it's that sometimes the most unexpected moments, the ones that catch us off guard, reveal the deepest truths. And that scream? It was the start of something I couldn't ignore. As you watch this video and follow along, I want you to consider the people in your own life, those moments when their reactions puzzle you or leave you wondering if there's more beneath the surface. This story isn't unique because of the necklace or the scream. It's unique because of the human emotions behind it, the fear of betrayal, the hope for understanding, and the desperate need to find answers. The kind of story that makes you question how well you really know someone and whether love is enough to survive the shadows that come with it. So, as we move forward, I'll share with you the clues I found, the people I met, and the moments that brought me closer to the truth. But I'll also share the dead ends, the red herrings, and the moments that made me doubt myself more than anything else. Because in a mystery like this, every detail counts, and every suspect, no matter how unlikely, has a role to play. You'll see how a simple gift opened a door to a complex web of secrets and emotions, and why sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. And just when you think you've figured it out, when you think the story has taken shape, something unexpected will happen. A new twist, a new piece of information, a face from the past that changes everything. That's the kind of mystery that doesn't just entertain. It keeps you on the edge of your seat, thinking long after the screen goes dark. So stay with me, because the real story behind the scream is only just beginning. Just when I thought I was starting to piece things together, the whole situation took a sudden, unnerving turn that made me realize this wasn't going to be a simple mystery to solve. One evening, a few days after that scream, I decided to look closer at the necklace itself. I wanted to understand why it had such a powerful effect on her. When I went to check the box where I'd kept it safe, it was gone, completely vanished. No trace, no explanation. At first, I thought maybe I misplaced it or someone accidentally moved it, but nothing made sense. The place where I had carefully hidden it was untouched, and the rest of our things were exactly where they should be. It was like the necklace had disappeared into thin air, and with it, the one physical clue. I had to unlock the secret behind her reaction. That was the moment I realized I was dealing with something far bigger and more complicated than just a missing gift. The disappearance of the necklace only heightened my anxiety and suspicion. I began to notice other strange things happening around me, small details that didn't add up. A car parked outside the house for hours at a time when she wasn't home, a friend of hers who suddenly stopped returning my calls, and a mysterious warning slipped in a casual conversation from someone I thought I could trust. That warning was chilling. Sometimes, it's better not to dig too deep. The words echoed in my mind, making me question how far I should really go. Was this a simple relationship problem? Or had I accidentally stepped into something dangerous? The feeling of being watched, of boundaries being pushed, started to weigh heavily on me. And yet, despite the fear and uncertainty, I couldn't stop myself from wanting to know the truth. Because the truth I was beginning to understand was the only way to make sense of the scream and everything that came after. In the middle of all this, I uncovered something from her past, a secret event she'd never mentioned, a betrayal that seemed to shadow her life. I found an old journal, hidden in a place she never expected me to look, filled with entries from years ago. The words painted a picture of someone wrestling with pain and trust issues far deeper than I'd realized. There was a particular entry that stood out, describing a friendship that turned toxic, a person she trusted who ended up hurting her in a way that left scars no one could see. This past betrayal wasn't just a story from years ago. It felt like a wound still bleeding beneath the surface of our relationship, something she'd tried to protect me from, but that now threatened to unravel everything. The necklace, the scream, the warning, they all seemed connected to this secret history, but how and why were still unclear. Adding to the confusion was the sudden appearance of a person I never expected to see again, someone from her past who seemed to know more than they let on. This person appeared friendly on the surface, but their presence felt unsettling. Their questions, the way they watched me, and the vague answers they gave when I tried to learn about their connection to her all raised red flags. Was this person an ally, or someone with their own agenda? Were they trying to help, or were they part of the reason why the necklace triggered such a violent reaction? Every interaction left me more puzzled, more cautious. It was like stepping into a shadowy maze where every turn held new secrets and potential dangers. The stakes kept rising as I tried to hold on to normal life while chasing these fragments of truth. Friends and family started to notice the change in me, the sleepless nights, the constant questioning, the paranoia creeping in. Some tried to support me. Others warned me to let it go, to accept that some things are better left buried. But how do you accept silence when your heart is screaming for answers? How do you find peace when every clue leads to more questions? The emotional weight was crushing, but so was the need to protect the person I loved, even if that meant confronting shadows I never wanted to face. And then came the moment that shifted everything again, an unexpected call late at night from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was calm but firm, delivering a message that sent chills through me. Stop looking for what isn't yours to find. Some doors, once opened, can't be closed. That warning wasn't just a threat, it was a challenge. It told me that my search for the truth was about to get even harder, and that the people involved might go to any lengths to keep their secrets safe. At that moment, I realized this wasn't just a personal crisis. It was a puzzle tangled with hidden alliances, buried betrayals, and maybe even danger I hadn't imagined. So here I am, caught between wanting to uncover the truth and fearing what I might find. The necklace is gone, the scream still haunts me, and every step forward feels like walking on a tightrope with no safety net. The people around me blur into shadows, friends or foes, protectors or deceivers, and the line between love and betrayal grows thinner by the day. This story isn't just about a gift or a scream anymore. It's about trust, survival, and the cost of secrets. And just when I thought I was beginning to understand, a new piece of information came to light, a secret that could change everything again and leave me questioning everything I thought I knew. But that's a story for the next part, so stay with me, because the truth behind the scream is about to get even more complicated, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Just as I was beginning to piece together the fractured parts of my life, as though the nightmare couldn't get any more tangled, a new layer of confusion crashed in from an entirely unexpected direction. It wasn't just me who started receiving cryptic messages and warnings. Someone else close to me did too, someone I never thought would get caught up in the storm. My closest friend, who'd always been a steady presence through the chaos, suddenly found themselves on the receiving end of a message eerily similar to mine. Late one night, when I was wrestling with sleepless thoughts, I got a call, panicked and breathless, telling me that the warning wasn't isolated, that there were others being pulled into this shadowy web, each getting pieces of the same puzzle, but none with the full picture. It was a jarring reminder that whatever was going on was bigger than just my relationship, bigger than a single scream or a missing necklace. It was a secret that threatened to spiral beyond anything I could have imagined, and it wasn't just my life at risk anymore. At the same time, a new piece of evidence surfaced that threw all my previous assumptions into doubt. Someone close to her, someone I had never suspected, handed me an old photograph, faded and creased at the edges, but impossible to ignore. It showed a scene from years ago, one that directly contradicted a story I had been told multiple times. A friend who I believed to be innocent and supportive appeared in the photo, their face obscured by shadows but unmistakably present. The photograph suggested connections, alliances, and past interactions that didn't fit the narrative I had been holding onto so tightly. The idea that I had been blind to this deeper layer of deception hit me hard. Every truth I thought I had grasped now felt like quicksand, pulling me deeper into uncertainty and suspicion. I was forced to reconsider every conversation, every gesture, every half-truth I had been handed along the way. If this photo was real, if it was genuine, then someone had been lying or protecting a secret since long before the necklace ever came into the picture. The tension in my world escalated as I found myself questioning not only the people I thought I knew, but also my own judgment. Who could I trust when every smile hid a possible agenda? Was my partner truly the person I loved, or a stranger playing a part? Was my friend really a confidant, or a player in this game of secrets and shadows? And what about the mysterious figure who had reappeared from her past, that suspicious ally who seemed to be watching my every move? Every interaction felt layered with hidden meaning, every casual comment potentially a coded message. I began to see this as a puzzle with no clear edges, a labyrinth where every path led to a dead end or a new question. The stakes were no longer just emotional. They felt physical, almost tangible, like the danger was closing in around me in ways I couldn't yet understand. Adding to the rising pressure was the weight of the unknown. The warnings I received weren't just about stopping my search. They hinted at consequences far worse than losing the necklace or even trust. I started noticing subtle changes around me. Small signs that someone was watching, unexpected visitors at odd hours, the feeling that my phone was no longer just a communication tool but a window to eyes that shouldn't be seeing me. It was as though I'd stepped into a thriller where every move was monitored and every question could provoke a response. This wasn't just a personal story anymore. It had evolved into something more dangerous and unpredictable, a real-life mystery that demanded answers but threatened to consume anyone who dared to dig too deep. What made it even more impossible was the mix of people who suddenly had motives for keeping the truth hidden. From friends with unclear loyalties to family members caught in their own webs of silence, the lines between ally and adversary blurred beyond recognition. There was no clear villain or hero, just a tangled mess of secrets, half-truths, and betrayals waiting to explode. And as I shared this with you, I want you to think about how many times in your own life you've encountered situations where the people closest to you suddenly felt like strangers, where trust was tested by shadows lurking just out of sight. This story is about that fragile line, the one we all walk between love and suspicion, hope and fear. So here I stand, caught in the middle of a mystery that refuses to let go, with every new clue leading to more questions and every connection deepening the web of doubt. The necklace is gone, the scream still echoes, and now the warning has multiplied, targeting not just me, but everyone who dares to uncover the truth. And just when I thought I was beginning to understand the layers beneath the surface, a new revelation threatened to shatter everything again. Something so unexpected, so explosive, that it could change the story's course entirely. But that, my friends, is a secret I'm not quite ready to reveal yet. Stay with me, because this mystery is far from over, and the next chapter will take us even deeper into the darkness. The moment the darkness closed in, it was subtle at first, almost imperceptible, a shadow slipping behind me on the sidewalk, the sudden hush in a crowded room, the quick glance over my shoulder that caught nothing but empty air. But those tiny moments piled up like whispers screaming in the quiet, until the weight of them became impossible to ignore. I started feeling eyes on me everywhere I went, strangers turning their heads a little too fast, cars slowing down beside me before speeding off. At first, I tried to convince myself it was paranoia, the natural byproduct of stress and sleepless nights. But deep down, I knew better. The feeling was real, raw, and it carried with it a terrible certainty. I was being watched, tracked, and I was no longer safe. The necklace was gone, but its ghost was everywhere, pulling me into a danger I hadn't signed up for, but couldn't escape. Then, things took an even darker turn. Someone close to me vanished without warning, disappeared like a ghost into thin air, leaving behind only a chilling note and an unbearable silence. They were my anchor in this chaos, someone I thought I could trust without question, and suddenly they were gone. No calls, no messages, nothing but a haunting absence that echoed louder than any scream. That disappearance was a sharp blade cutting through my disbelief, forcing me to face the harsh truth. This was no longer just a story of secrets and lies. It was a threat, real and immediate, aimed right at me and the few people brave enough to stand near the truth. The note they left wasn't just a farewell. It was a warning, a plea, and a puzzle all wrapped into one, telling me to stop looking, to walk away, before it was too late. But how do you turn your back on someone who vanished because of what they knew? How do you ignore a scream that lingers long after the sound has faded? The days that followed were a blur of fear and frantic searching, each moment filled with questions that twisted inside my mind like a storm. Who was behind this? What did they want? And most terrifyingly, what was I willing to risk to uncover the truth? I felt myself slipping into a dark place where trust was a luxury I couldn't afford, where every shadow held a possible threat, and every friendly face masked a hidden agenda. The paranoia became a constant companion, making it hard to distinguish between reality and the mind's desperate attempts to protect itself. I caught myself jumping at every noise, replaying conversations over and over, searching for clues that might explain the growing danger surrounding me. It was exhausting and isolating, but I couldn't stop, because stopping meant surrendering to the unknown, and surrendering meant losing everything I still had left. Emotions crashed over me in waves: anger at being dragged into this nightmare, grief for the person who disappeared, fear for what might come next, and a stubborn flicker of hope that somewhere beneath the lies and threats, the truth was waiting to be found. I clung to that hope like a lifeline, even as the world around me grew darker and more uncertain. Every decision felt like a gamble with stakes higher than I ever imagined, and every step forward risked pulling me deeper into a web where escape seemed impossible. The scream that started it all wasn't just a reaction anymore. It was a signal, a call to action, and a haunting reminder of how fragile safety can be when secrets refuse to stay buried. And just when I thought I had reached the edge of what I could bear, a direct threat landed in my hands, anonymous, cold, and unmistakably clear. The message left no room for doubt. Back off, or suffer the consequences. Those words weren't just ink on paper. They were a line drawn in the sand, a promise of danger lurking just out of sight, ready to strike when I least expected it. It was a moment that shattered whatever illusions I had left, forcing me to confront the harsh reality that I was not just a bystander in this story. I was a target. The necklace was gone, the scream still echoed, the people I trusted were slipping away or turning into shadows, and the mystery that had seemed like a puzzle was becoming a trap. So here I am, caught in a relentless storm of fear, suspicion, and unanswered questions. The darkness is closing in, and every moment feels heavier than the last. But even as the danger grows, so does my resolve. Because the scream, the necklace, the vanished friend, and the warnings, they all point to one undeniable truth. I need to find the answers, no matter the cost. And that search is far from over. Just when I thought I had a grip on what was happening, when every twist seemed to point in one terrifying direction, I was blindsided by a revelation so profound that it flipped everything upside down and made me question not only the people around me but my own memories and instincts. It came from someone I trusted completely, the one person I believed had no reason to deceive me, someone who had been a quiet witness to all the chaos and pain. Their voice was steady but heavy when they dropped a bombshell that shattered the fragile framework of what I thought was true. The necklace, the scream, the warnings, the disappearances, none of it was what it seemed. In fact, the whole story had been a carefully constructed illusion, a smoke and mirrors act designed to pull me into a game far more dangerous and complex than I could have imagined. This person revealed that the necklace wasn't just a meaningless trinket or a trigger for past trauma. It was actually a key, a symbol of something much larger and far more sinister. The scream wasn't fear or shock, but a reaction tied to a secret pact made long before I ever met her. There were layers of deception dating back years, secrets entwined with hidden agendas, betrayals, and alliances that blurred the line between friend and foe. The warning messages, the disappearances, and even the threatening calls, they were all part of a calculated effort to keep a dangerous truth buried, a truth that involved not just personal relationships, but shadowy forces pulling strings behind the scenes. Suddenly, my personal nightmare was tangled in something resembling a thriller, with stakes so high that it was no longer about just me, or even the people I loved. It was about survival in a world where trust was a weapon, and every move could have deadly consequences. What made this twist even more jarring was the realization that I had been an unwitting pawn, manipulated by those closest to me. The person I thought was protecting me had their own hidden agenda, their own reasons for steering me down certain paths while blocking others. The photograph, the vanished necklace, the mysterious visitor from her past, they were all pieces of a puzzle that only made sense when viewed from a completely different angle. And that angle wasn't just about uncovering a secret. It was about understanding who was really in control and who was pulling the strings in this dangerous game. I started to question everything, my own perceptions, my memories, even my feelings. Was any of it real, or just part of an elaborate facade crafted to keep me trapped in a web of lies? As this new reality set in, I was forced to confront a chilling question. If those I trusted most were capable of deception on such a scale, who could I turn to? The lines between victim and conspirator blurred, and the mystery that had seemed so personal transformed into a labyrinth of hidden motives, shifting alliances, and shadowy threats. This wasn't just a story about a scream or a missing necklace anymore. It was a story about power, control, and the dangerous games people play when the stakes are life and death. And in the middle of it all, I realized that the biggest question wasn't what happened or why, but who was the real enemy, and was I already too far gone to escape? So now, with the truth no longer clear and the shadows growing deeper, I'm left with nothing but more questions, more doubts, and a growing fear that the answers I seek might cost me everything. But the search continues, because sometimes the only way out of darkness is to stare it straight in the face, no matter how blinding the truth may be. And believe me, this story is far from over. The moment I'd been dreading and desperate for arrived all at once, like a storm crashing through the fragile calm I'd clung to for so long. It was time to confront the person at the center of this twisted web, the one whose shadow had loomed over every secret, every scream, every vanished piece of my life. The tension in the air was thick enough to choke on, every heartbeat loud in the silence, as I faced the person I once trusted without question. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in, as the truth we'd both been dancing around finally demanded to be laid bare. Words felt useless here. This was a battle of wills, a psychological war that pushed every boundary I thought I understood. The necklace, the screams, the warnings, they were all threads pulled taut, ready to snap under the weight of what was about to be revealed. As we exchanged truths and lies, half-truths and deflections, I could see the flicker of fear behind their eyes, a rare crack in the armor of control they'd built. The final piece of evidence, something I'd overlooked in the chaos, suddenly came into focus. A message, hidden in plain sight, that linked everything together. It wasn't just about betrayal or secrets anymore. It was about survival, power, and a past neither of us could escape. The stakes were no longer abstract. They were painfully real, with consequences that could destroy everything I held dear. Every revelation twisted the knife a little deeper, but also peeled away the layers of deception until the raw truth was exposed, brutal and undeniable. The confrontation spiraled into a charged psychological duel, each of us trying to outmaneuver the other with words that cut deeper than any weapon. It was a fight not just for answers, but for control over the narrative of our lives. In those moments, the line between victim and villain blurred, and the story I'd believed turned out to be just one side of a far more complex and darker reality. Emotions ran high: rage, sorrow, desperation, and the tension built to a crescendo that left no room for doubt. This was the climax, the point where everything came crashing down, and the truth threatened to shatter us both. Just when I thought I had reached the end, when the pieces seemed to fit and the battle was won, the final twist hit like a thunderclap, an unexpected revelation that no one saw coming. Someone I'd trusted all along was the true mastermind, the puppeteer behind the scenes who had orchestrated every move, every secret, every moment of chaos for reasons far beyond what I could comprehend. It was a betrayal that shattered the fragile closure I thought I'd earned, throwing everything back into darkness and uncertainty. The story that seemed finished was only beginning anew, leaving me, and you, the viewer, on the edge, grappling with the staggering truth that sometimes the deepest mysteries hide in plain sight, and the most trusted faces can conceal the darkest secrets. This final confrontation wasn't just a battle for truth, it was a raw, emotional journey through pain, trust, and the relentless human desire to understand, forgive, or sometimes simply survive. The scream that started it all echoed one last time in my mind, a haunting reminder that in the tangled webs we weave, some threads lead to salvation and others to ruin. And as the dust settled, I was left with one undeniable truth. The mystery was far from over, and the answers I sought would continue to haunt me long after the screen fades to black. In the days that followed the final confrontation, everything felt eerily still, as if the world had exhaled after holding its breath for far too long. The chaos had passed, the adrenaline had faded, and yet I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching from the shadows, waiting. The truth had come out, or most of it at least. I had pieced together the web of betrayal, secrets, and manipulation that had turned my life upside down. The one I had trusted the most had been pulling strings all along, hiding behind layers of false loyalty and carefully crafted deception. And even though I had uncovered their role and brought their twisted version of the truth into the light, the damage they left behind couldn't be undone. The necklace, once meant as a gift of love, now sat untouched in a drawer, no longer lost but forever changed, like everything else in my life. I kept it not because I wanted to remember the pain, but because it symbolized something real, how even the most beautiful things can carry hidden weight. In time, the warning stopped. The strange calls ceased. The fear that had crept into every corner of my mind began to ease, replaced by something quieter, heavier, grief, not just for what had been lost, but for what had never really existed. I tried to rebuild the pieces of myself that had cracked under pressure, but some parts would always carry the scars. I distanced myself from those who had played even the smallest part in the deception, and as the silence grew around me, so did a strange kind of clarity. I realized that not every mystery ends with clean answers. Some leave you with only fragments, pieces that don't quite fit, questions that never find a voice, and truths that choose to stay hidden. But even in that, there's a kind of peace, a surrender to the fact that life is rarely ever as simple as good versus evil, love versus betrayal. It's complicated, messy, and painfully human. The person who disappeared never came back, not in the way I had hoped. There were rumors, glimpses, and stories from people who claimed to have seen them, changed, starting over somewhere far away. Maybe they escaped the weight of the truth, or maybe they were just another casualty of secrets that ran too deep. I stopped looking eventually, not because I gave up, but because I finally understood that sometimes the best way to honor someone is to let go. That realization was the hardest to accept, but also the most freeing. As for the one who orchestrated it all, the so-called friend who turned out to be the architect of the storm, I never saw them again. They vanished into the noise, leaving behind nothing but questions I stopped needing answers to. And her, the woman who screamed when she saw the necklace, she changed too. After everything, we tried to talk, tried to find a thread of connection in the ruins. But too much had been said, too much revealed. We both knew that whatever we had before was buried beneath a truth too sharp to forget. She thanked me for bringing things into the open, for helping her confront a past she had spent years running from. And I thanked her for showing me that sometimes love isn't enough, not because it's weak, but because some things are just too broken to hold. We parted ways quietly, without blame, without bitterness, just two people forever linked by a moment neither of us will ever forget. Now, looking back, I can't tell you everything makes sense. There are still details that don't add up, faces I remember but can't place, timelines that feel just slightly off. But maybe that's the point. Maybe the reason this story stays with you, why you're still watching, still thinking about that scream, that necklace, that web of betrayal, is because life doesn't come with clean endings. It comes with echoes, with questions that linger, with choices that change you even when you don't understand them. That's what this story really is, an echo of love, of fear, of things left unsaid. And maybe, just maybe, it's also a warning that the truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how deeply it's buried. That the people closest to us are sometimes the ones we never really see. So if you're still here, still listening, ask yourself, what would you do if someone screamed at the sight of something you gave them with love? Would you dig deeper? Would you chase the truth, no matter the cost? Or would you walk away before the darkness took you too? The choice I made changed everything. And I hope if you ever find yourself standing where I stood, you'll know when to chase the mystery and when to let it go. Because sometimes the scariest part of a story isn't the scream or the betrayal. It's what comes after. The silence. The questions. The knowing that the truth was never what you thought it was. And that maybe, just maybe, it still isn't. That's where my story ends. Or maybe, that's just where it begins again.